I'm not here to follow opinions.
Not here to run the rat race.
Not here to please neighbors and relatives.
I am the writer of my story.
The maker of my own way.
And the creator of my own dream.
I am what I am.
And this is my story.
My story.
My madness.
Hello everyone, my name is Andreas Brueckl. I'm a colorist and a visual consultant. So my love for media, for film, my fascination started quite early when I was a child, because my father used to work as a gaffer for German movies like Das Boot or Der Alte or Derrick. And I was fascinated by the story. So when I came out of school, I thought, okay, maybe my father can help me, but he couldn't because he was retired already. And in Germany, mid-90s, there were literally no jobs. So I was pretty lucky at this time. So I knew I had to understand I had to do it myself, but I was lucky that I got an internship at a radio station. And they kind of liked what I did. They liked my passion, and they offered me to become a radio reporter. So I did this. I got speaking education. I was with radio people then basically for the next 1.5 to 2 years. And luckily there was also a TV department in the same house. And the TV they did was basically driving around with satellite cars and making live broadcast. It's called SNG. So I joined this department. I was on mainly sports events like the Tour de France for a month in France, on the Ski World Cup in Austria, in Slovenia. It was super interesting, very stressy. And after this I got a chance, I was just 21, 22, to build up the broadcast department of a complete new company, of a startup. So I was the boss of 6 people, and we were in this master control room and had remote controlled cameras all over the world. Gathered these clips, this was in Munich at this time, so we gathered these clips from all over the world, from Los Angeles, from Miami, from Venice, from South Korea, and did a kind of weather show. So this was my, let's say, first job with responsibility in a kind of a engineer responsibility. And at the same time, because I was so interested in 3D animation, I taught myself 3D animation, especially rendering and lighting. And I joined a company after this called Scanline. The Scanline is there till today. They work on big Hollywood movies. Became a junior artist, but my actual goal was to become a colorist. Because 5 years earlier, someone told me about this kind of magical job of a colorist, and he was once allowed in the room for 5 minutes to see what they're doing, and so I was hooked up. And the problem is you couldn't find anything in the internet at this time. There was nothing. So I had a broadcast magazine, found something about a telescene, but the info was, there was nothing there. So at one point I understood, okay, there's one machine where people work on, it's called Baselight. And I went to London for 3 days, paid roughly $3,000 to get a training, which was of course not enough. You have to train for years. But this was my initial start. And then I applied to every film lab in Germany at the time, and Bavaria Film took me in. They made me a daily colorist, so I got the film negative every day, scanned the film negative, we gave it to the editor. This was my job. It was quite good for me. It was a basal initial training. I learned the base of color grading. It was very simple at this time, basic film negative. I learned to speak to cinematographers, give them a report every day, how to connect. And did this for about 2.5 years. Then started freelancing as a commercial colorist. It was quite hard because no one knew me really in the field, but also there were not too many colorists at this time. So I got job offers in Denmark. I was in Denmark sometimes 2 times a week for a commercial. I was in Switzerland. I was in the Czech Republic and Slovenia. Quite exciting, but also exhausting. And then in 2010, 2011, I got an offer to work in Istanbul as a lead colorist for a commercial color grading department, and stayed there for about 4 years. Did in this time maybe 1,000 commercials. It was a crazy time. We had up to 6 commercials a day. Then 2014, I was kind of burned out from commercials and got an offer to join Pinewood Studios in Malaysia. They just built a new studio. with the Japanese company Imagica, which is the biggest post-production in Japan. So they joint ventured, and I moved then to Malaysia, built up the color grading department for 3 years. And after this got asked to come to India. It was 2017. I joined a company called FutureWorks. We started right at the moment when the OTT channels came in, like the streaming services like Netflix, Amazon. And we kind of built the base at this time for all the streaming platforms. So there was no post-production equipped at this time. We all had to learn. And because I was quite early in technical standards like ACES, like HDR, we had a kind of head start. And all the shows which came out 2018-19, they basically came from our department. Then 2020, I was asked to come to Dubai to join a new government channel, a new streaming platform, which is they're trying to build up with a huge budget, $800 million, a 5 years plan. And I said, yes, I will come, but not only to build up the post-production, I also want to be in the creative process. So me as a colorist, being in the creative process, I want to read the scripts. I want to be involved in the visual quality. I want to have a say in the visual quality, because this was the one thing they wanted, a Hollywood quality. And how can you have a Hollywood quality if they shoot like they used to shoot in the Middle East, which is, the bar is very low, let's say. So we really went into it. I developed new processes with my team. And from this point, kind of called myself colorist / visual consultant, as the guy who's really into the consulting, in reading scripts, in bouncing ideas with the DOPs. And this went on for about 2 years. And then I got another offer to come back to India and join Prime Focus, DNEG, which is the same company, and do the same basically in India. So they built a little boutique studio for me, and I was intrigued by the idea to have my own studio and have the full power of Prime Focus, of DNEG, with between 8,000 and 10,000 people in my back. So that's where I am right now. So if I talk about my madness, I can tell you that my last 15 years were madness. I've changed my country 5 to 6 times. There's always a kind of fear when you go into a new place. You know it, when you only change your job in the same city, there's always this little bit amount of fear. Now imagine you change your entire location, you change your country. You're going into something completely unknown. And first of all, you have to overcome this fear. So, you might ask, why am I doing this? Because I don't want to be in a comfort zone. The moment I'm in my comfort zone, it's like everyone is doing it at home. People are staying in their comfort zone. They get a job and they stay in Germany maybe for the next 20 years in this job. They change maybe one time. I don't want to be in a comfort zone. I want to be in a constant state of development. And let this be personal, let this be in my job. The moment I'm getting lazy, I think I have to stop. So this is part of my madness, which brings, of course, a lot of issues, because you have to change your country. I mean, I have 5-6 professions. This started before I became a colorist. And being a colorist now, I have to be 5 to 10 years ahead. There's a reason why I'm asked to work in these companies, in these big player companies. There's a reason why I'm asked to move countries to work there. The reason is I bring probably something to the table which other people don't. I have some kind of skills, some kind of different way of thinking, but this has to get developed. You can't play it safe at this point. And that's what I'm doing. So I think the biggest madness, which no one has done before, is when I came to Dubai and basically changed the entire level of being a colorist into a visual consultant. A colorist comes in the end. Maybe does a technical test up front. Or I don't want to be the guy who says in an interview, oh, there's the director and there's the DOP and I want to help them to execute their vision. That's not what I want to do. I want to be part of that vision. And today, my job is, of course, color grading. I would say 40-50% is color grading, but the other 50% is consulting. So I know, if you ask me today about any cinema lens, I can tell you the specifics, the characteristics of any cinema lens. I'm constantly talking to manufacturers like ARRI, like film light. Hey, what's new? What's this? What's the color science? So I have to know more. I have to be 5 to 10 years ahead of everyone else. Let us be a color space like TCAM. There's a specific color space called TCAM, which I used to test in 2017 and since then used it and went into the depth. How can I use it? What can I put on top? Now in India, people in 2022, 23, 24, they slowly started using this technology. So I have to be 5 to 10 years ahead because there's always this risk. If I'm not good enough, if I don't have clients, so there is no justification of me being here. So I'm here because people want to work with me. If people don't want to work with me, then there's no reason for me to be in this country. So coming back to this, as a colorist, you have to be an artist. There's a very technical aspect to our job, but that's just the base. If you don't think like an artist, I don't think you will have an artist approach. And I feel like a filmmaker at heart. There used to be a time with color timing when we still worked on film, where the color timer was heavily involved. He understood the story. And I think then the next 10, 15 years, not everywhere, but in many parts, colorists, I think they became operators. So the DOP is telling them what to do. I think now we're going out of this and going back into the artist aspect of color grading. So there's this aspect of how much visual art do you want to see as a colorist? How much should the viewer, the audience see? Is my grading too strong? Is it too powerful? Is it overpowering as a part of the visual appearance, the story? Then something is wrong. Or maybe it's part of the story, or maybe you need it as to be part of the story. So everything is possible. But I have to understand the story. I have to lead the emotion in this specific scene, but I can't overpower it. Or maybe it's meant to be overpowered. But that's why I absolutely have to understand the story to do the right thing, basically. If I have the chance, I read every script. At least I get the Bible, whatever I get at this stage. I watch the film up front. I have to understand the film. How colorful am I going? How dark? How bright? If I don't understand the footage, I don't think I can do a proper grading. So for me, you can't make art without having the heart of an artist in color grading. Also, when we go into the process of color grading, so basically what we do in color grading, let's start from the end. We balance shots, we create the looks, let it be a short form or a long form. We kind of, with micro contrast, with bending the footage, with working actually for the footage. I can never work against the footage. I try to get the best out of the footage and to get the footage in a good continuity. That's number one. But again, I try to be involved so early that in an ideal case, whatever you do on set is almost the final look what you have in grading. So call it lazy, I call it be very prepared. And India is getting to this. So I feel the process. I'm trying to make a lot up front with the DOP. And we talk about the visuals a lot. We talk about which lenses to use, which technology to use, which approach to use. And this reflects in the dailies. So, and once this reflects in the dailies, so later it's like eating cake. Because then your grading is really simple and you just fine tune a bit. But so my thing at the moment is to push everyone to basically shoot it almost final on set. And that's where I want to be involved. So if I talk about my awards, I won Best Feature Film, Best Commercial 2017 at the Apollo Awards in Singapore. And I was nominated for Filmlight Awards. I was also jury member of the Filmlight Awards. But there are not too many awards for colorists. For me, it's always like a bigger thing if one of my films gets nominated. Because I work so close with the cinematographer. So whenever a cinematographer wins an award, it's a little bit, I feel it's also my award. So I had commercials in Cannes, at Berlinale. So this is a bigger success for me than my awards. Thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure for me to be here. This was my story, my madness. And I'm looking very forward to hear more stories and more madness.